stuff and go around the different exhibitor booths. Make sure you would connect with people. It's really, really important. You'll have such a better experience if you do that. So without any further ado, once again, we've got Sean Wilson here from the Head of Strategic Initiatives at Practice Lab, who's going to be doing a session on improving the odds of work readiness in the digital world through experiential learning. Thank you very much. Over to you, Sean.
Thanks, Scott. I'll just share my screen. Brilliant. Hopefully you can all see that. So good morning, everybody. So Scott has given me the thumbs up so you can all see. So as Scott said, I'm Sean Wilson. I'm the Head of Strategic Initiatives at Practice Labs. And today we're going to be talking about all things digital skills and how we can support our practitioners through practice and experience in terms of digital skills. So to start off with, I thought I'd just give you a little bit of an overview about who Practice Labs are. I'll just move my screen a little bit. So Practice Labs has a mission to help 1 million users improve their digital skills by 2023. So we believe that the best way to learn digital skills is to try things out in a safe environment and to build confidence through practicing without the issue of changing something on your own computer or workplace systems. So we enable learners to use real IT equipment and software in a safe lab environment so they can practice and test. So whether that be their own basic digital skills to access work, or as an IT professional looking to try out a new method and upskill themselves. We are a culture-driven global organisation with our head office based in the UK. And we work with employability, training providers, corporate businesses, and the third sector to build in practice and performance labs into their current provision or CPD activity. We are just about to release our online initial assessment and learning programme for essential digital skills, and that was something that came up quite a bit in yesterday's topics around recruitment. So we're going to talk a little bit about that at the end of the session. So in terms of what we're going to be covering today, so learning through technology has never been more prevalent. With the last 18 months, learning has been pushed into that technological environment. Although it's always been there and always been available and used for years, the adoption has been really varied. And I think we found that quite a lot in our sector. In this session, we're going to focus predominantly on digital skills and the impact that even basic digital skills can have on individuals in their work and in their lives, and looking how experience and practice can build confidence and give real ability. We're going to discuss the bit of the skills landscape and what the current state of the nation is, looking at some of the compounding factors that we're all coming across that make digital skills a critical need for social mobility, whilst most importantly looking at what we can do as practitioners to be able to improve people's odds of a sustainable career. So where are we at the moment? So the digital skills gap has long been discussed, but it's important to understand that there's two kind of main elements to this. The first one being essential digital skills, and this is something that we as practitioners see quite a lot in our sector. 1 in 5 adults don't have the basic digital skills in work and in life. And with an increasing digital first world, we're seeing this divide getting bigger and bigger across jobs and all elements of society. So if you think of how our clients look at universal credit, get government support, even make a GP appointment now, it's all done digitally. And it's now a fundamental part of our everyday lives. So if those 1 in 5 adults haven't got those basic digital skills, they're not having the confidence to be able to access that support. The second part of it is obviously those digital career pathways. So when you're looking at what the new roles are for the future and the new job market, those demands for things like AI and cloud and robotic skills, they're soaring. But actually there's a worry that those digital career pathways are not strong and most importantly, not accessible enough for people to understand and be attractive. So the Learning and Work Institute actually has just done some recent research And it's found that 70% of people expect employers to invest in teaching them the digital skills on the job, but actually only about half of employers are actually able to do this. And 76% of firms are thinking that the lack of digital skills is actually going to hit their profitability in the not too distant future. We've also got quite a lot of young people leaving education without those digital skills needed to advance their career in the future. So it's multifaceted across a number of different elements. However, whether it's the skills we all need or whether it's someone wanting to progress in that digital career, the pace of change in this digital world is something that's widening across all areas. Being able to adapt and pivot as individuals and businesses needs to be fluid, it needs to be accessible, and it needs to be an inclusive element to our lives, rather than static, ad hoc or clunky learning that feels really separate and kind of alien to what we do every day. Long before the pandemic, businesses were already rethinking their workforce development strategies. So with this accelerated automation of jobs and an adoption and embedding of things like analytics and business processes, and now we've got remote working is part of all of our lives. It's just some of the technology-driven trends that are altering the nature of work and the skills that are required. It used to be in the not so distant future, but it's now in terms of how people are working. The shaping of our workforce has far-reaching implications on workforce development. And the World Economic Forum's just recently done a Future of Jobs report, in which it's saying 85 million jobs are going to be disturbed by a shift in the division of labour between humans and machines by 2025, which is not that far off. While it seems concerning, there's also going to be 97 million new types of jobs in the labour division. So it's new types of roles being created, while others might become redundant. That continuous reskilling and upskilling are essential for the expanding needs of functions. Around 40% of employees will need to be reskilled in half a year or less. And 94% of leaders believe that employees will pick up these new skills on the job. And I think this is what we found very much throughout the pandemic is whilst people are working from home, having to learn new skills, having to learn how to work with technology constantly, that on-the-job learning, that gathering experience has become the norm for us all. So looking at digital literacy in the UK today, as I've said, there is an accelerating change driven by the widening of digital skills gap and the impact, obviously, COVID on the jobs market. 1 in 5 adults obviously don't have no or low basic digital skills. So yesterday it was discussed in terms of the recruitment side of things on how our clients are having to kind of jump this barrier of digital skills just to apply for jobs. And that's not even taken into account once they have a job and actually using this technology day in, day out. So it's about undertaking tasks and being able to actually gather that job in the first place. Those 17 million adults in the UK don't have those digital skills needed for work. And about 1/3 of vacancies are difficult to fill. Quite a lot of this is that digital skill side of things, because digital skills isn't just about that kind of IT driven skill. It's about being able to use technology, being able to use the systems and processes that a company's brought together. We've also got, which we also discussed yesterday, was around digital poverty, and people have been able to have access to some of these systems or internet usage. So it's being able to marry that skill need with also the ability and accessibility of some of these products and services. So when we look at some of the compounding issues that we're all facing at the moment, so digital reskilling and upskilling for current and future jobs, digital upskilling is a necessity for practically every employee today. Across departments, employees must enhance their digital skills to interact and collaborate effectively with colleagues, partners, and customers via multiple channels whilst streamlining daily operations and working remotely. A tech-savvy workforce can respond better and faster to dynamic changes in the business environment, but also to customer expectations, helping maintain a company's competitive edge. And we all as customers are looking at how we can get quick and easy solutions to things. Our users and our clients are also going to have to deal with that in a work environment of customers wanting to engage with us, whether it be through email, whether it be through web chat, whether it be through social media. There's absolutely loads of different ways that we're having to deal with customers' interactions. We need to ensure that employees have necessary digital skills to perform current and future jobs. Companies must create an environment and a culture that fosters continuous learning and training. So what COVID-19 has seen is this dramatically accelerated shift. Many organisations had to expedite their digital transformations and leverage advanced technologies to tackle difficulties such as physical distancing, supply chain disruptions due to factory closures, and as a result, they've had to ramp up digital learning initiatives. The reliance on technology in the workplace will only keep growing, and the ramifications of the pandemic will be felt for years. Notably, remote work is here to stay. A recent survey conducted by Gartner found that 50% of organisations reported that 80% of their employees are currently working remotely. 48% of employees will continue to work remotely or have this hybrid working. And what we're seeing is when some of the jobs that are coming up at the moment, it is trying to promote more flexible hybrid working, and it's being able to equip our clients for that. The need to train a large number of employees on remote work procedures has also boosted changes in the labour market due to an economic slowdown. So for example, the pandemic is driving replacement of full-time employees with contract workers, with more self-employed workers, and this actually might increase the rate of employee turnover, which means more frequent training is going to be needed. The pace of technology adoption is expected to remain unabated and may accelerate in some areas. The adoption of cloud computing, big data, more e-commerce remain high priorities for business, following a trend that's been established for previous years, but is also seeing a significant rise. Automation in tandem with COVID-19 recession is creating a double disruption scenario for workers. So in addition to current disruption from the pandemic-induced lockdowns and economic contraction, technological adoption for companies will transform tasks, jobs and skills by 2025. 43% of businesses indicate they're set to reduce their workforce due to technology integration. And what that means is by 2025, the time spent on current tasks at work by humans and machines is looking to kind of be equal. So that significant share of companies are looking to make changes to locations, might not necessarily have as many office environments as they had before, their value chains and their size of their workforce over the next 5 years. Although some of these jobs will not be there anymore, they will be surpassed by the kind of jobs of tomorrow. And in contrast to previous years, job creation is actually accelerating. And it's seeing that the roles that are coming about are becoming more hybrid, are cross-skilled, cross-sector, and we're asking our employees to be able to jump into different scenarios, being able to use different technologies that they might not necessarily be used to, especially for those that might have been out of work for a period of time or been on furlough for a year. So although skills gap continue to be high in demand skills across job changes over the next 5 years, the top skills and the skills groups that employers see rising in prominence also include things like critical thinking and analysis, as well as problem solving, skills and self-management, and things such as active learning, resilience, stress tolerance, and flexibility. So on average, companies are estimating about 40% of workers will require reskilling in 6 months or less. And 94% of those business leaders report that they expect employees to build new skills on the job. The future of work has already arrived for the majority of online office-based workforce. So Like we said, we're looking at around about 44% of workers to continue in a hybrid remote working. And to address concerns about productivity and well-being, 1/3 of employers expect to take steps to create a sense of community and connection and belonging through digital tools. I don't know about yourselves, but you're sort of using things like Teams, you've got things like Yammer, you've got Stack, etc., where people are conversating in a completely different way than they did before. And it's expected that people are be able to use email, be able to use video technology, be able to use online kind of social media as part of that community group as an employee. It also helps in the tackle of the wellbeing challenges posed by the shift of remote work. With this, we're already seeing digital first as we navigate through our lives. Like we said, whether you're booking doctor's appointments, accessing government services, banking, even taxing your car, everything is now moving to this digital first environment. So online learning and training is on the rise, but it looks different for those in employment and those that are unemployed. There's been a 4-fold increase of the numbers of individuals seeking out learning online through their own initiative, and a 5-fold increase in employer provision of online learning opportunities to workers. Those in employment are placing a larger emphasis on personal development courses, where we've seen 88% growth among that population. Those that are unemployed have placed greater emphasis on learning digital skills, such as data analysis, information technology, being able to use kind of office environments and online tools. The window of opportunity to reskill and upskill workers has become shorter in a newly constrained labour market. So it applies to workers who are likely to stay in their roles, as well as risk losing their roles to rise in recession-related unemployment, and that can no longer expect to retrain at work. For those workers set to remain in their roles, the share of core skills will change over the next 5 years. So despite the current economic downturn, the large majority of employers recognise the value of human capital investment. So 66% of employers are expected to get a return on investment in upskilling and reskilling within 1 year. However, with the current economic shock and the difference that we're now utilising our kind of work systems, they're expecting that to be a lot quicker. They're expecting people to be able to pick up skills, be able to pick up working practices a lot faster than they did before. The public sector also needs to provide strong support for reskilling and upskilling for at-risk or displaced workers. So currently only 21% of businesses report being able to make use of public funds and support their employees through reskilling and upskilling. It's being able to create initiatives for investment in the market and jobs of tomorrow and provide stronger safety nets for displaced workers in the midst of job transitions and decisively tackle long delayed improvements to education and training systems. Additionally, it'll be important for governments to consider the long-term labour market implications of maintaining, withdrawing and partly continuing the strong COVID-19 crisis support they're providing to support wages, maintain jobs in advanced economies. Beyond the scale of the coming changes in workplace roles and activities, what matters most is the nature of these changes. So increasing automation will significantly shift the skills profile of tomorrow's jobs, and it has implications for employers and employees alike. Companies need people with the right skills to develop, manage and maintain the automated equipment and digital processes and do jobs that machines can't. And workers will need the skills to be able to access employment. What we have seen is in operationally intensive sectors, businesses recognise that digitisation will create a significant skills gap, but many are feeling unprepared for this challenge. 2/3 of businesses are saying that skills are a top 10 issue for their companies, but only 7% of businesses feel that their companies are actually prepared to take on this challenge and understand what's actually needed. Nearly 1 in 4 say they lack the tools and the knowledge to be able to reskill their workforce. And this is something that from a employability and training provider side of things, we need to help employers connect with some of these initiatives. So before we look at kind of the future digital skills market, work readiness obviously takes into account a multitude of different areas that are individual to a person and where they're at in their journey. What should be universal, that good work should be enjoyed by all, regardless of background and starting point. So we should be able to pursue good work in an age of technological change. Economic security, growth, well-being and freedom are not ambitious in their own right, but many people already experience this, but our ambition must be that the principles should be available to all. So obviously I've covered a lot in terms of digital skills and the skills gaps that there are and what we need to, we're going to go on to what we need to do as practitioners to support our clients. But what I'm asking everybody is to just pop in chat, if we're going to improve the odds for all, if we're going to be able to improve work readiness for all, what are the changes that you would like to see, whether that be what we offer as practitioners, whether that be government initiatives that come out, or whether this be employers' offerings. So what I've asked, if you can just pop in chat some of the changes you would like to see in there. And I'll, Helen can.
Yes, while we're waiting for
from my side.
Yeah, while we're waiting for people to have an opportunity to do that, Sean, I thought I'd read you a comment that's come in from Mel. One gentleman I have worked with has been a coach driver for most of his adult life. At the beginning of the pandemic, he was made redundant. He had no digital skills at all when we started working together. He was keen to learn, so I put him on a basic course. This has opened up so many doors. He was able to retrain as a security guard. He can fill in timesheets and submit reports. All of these things would not have been available without upskilling. We are able to loan laptops, find suitable courses, purchase smartphones as part of our project. The impact is far-reaching, and with free Wi-Fi and access to hardware such as tablets. Oh, that was a question. So free Wi-Fi and access to hardware such as tablets, smartphones or laptops was her question after her statement.
Yeah, and this is something that exactly as we said, that those kind of digital skills, it goes across absolutely every job, and it isn't just the ability to apply for those roles, which the majority of them are online. It's then being able to carry on in that sustainable employment, and as those changes constantly happen throughout somebody's, career cycle, it's being able to keep up to date with them. We talk a lot around lifelong learning, and it's a statement that's kind of talked about a lot. But what that actually means, it isn't necessarily all about qualifications, and it isn't always about formal education. It's about being able to experience things and try things out yourself to be able to then put that into work and build in confidence, because ultimately digital skills is about building your confidence in doing what you do. And making sure, people are scared about trying different things out because it might, change their system, or they might take themselves offline or whatever that may be. So being able to build that confidence. So like I said, that gentleman there can then put his, put his work card in, he can access email, he can, work with his other colleagues in a digital setting. And one of the things as well, it's good to know is if you do have people that are going through the kind of job centre side of things, they do have some of that support in terms of free internet access for a period of time, and they do give access to computer equipment. So that is definitely something to kind of have a look at and speak to your local JCP centre around that.
Okay, thanks for that, Sean. So Sarah says, lack of digital skills is a large problem in my area, older rural population. Often poor transport, inadequate broadband, lack of IT equipment and little face-to-face help compounds the problem. Community hubs for people to drop into for assistance would help a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's that kind of rural nature of it, and it's something that I'm going to touch on later on. We're looking at the moment around kind of virtual work experience, and that's something that, especially people in rural areas, we're looking at it for digital careers to start with, because what we're finding is if somebody wants to go work in a digital career, if you work, let's say in the middle of Cumbria somewhere, and you're looking to engage, you haven't really got that much opportunity. So how do you bring that opportunity to somebody? And with, like we said, hybrid working and people working from home a lot more, actually it should open all of that up. It should open that job market up to people who might not necessarily be near a city or nearer that employment. But what that does mean is it compounds that issue if you haven't had those, you haven't got the opportunity to learn those skills. If you already feel a little bit unconfident with using digital skills, then if you're now using that as the majority part of your working life, then it does become that you need those community outreach programs. I know that the libraries are building that digital capability, but it's working with your local enterprise partnerships and those sort of guys to really look at their digital skills agenda and seeing what they're putting in locally to support.
Yes, and Anna's said that access to leading on from that, what she would like to see is access to hardware and internet access that is in a suitable place to enable learners to learn, study and work. So it really carries on with that theme, doesn't it? Yeah, absolutely. So Mel's also mentioned that there's a scheme at the moment through LVP that asks the person's work coach if they are on universal credit and they have a pot of money for a laptop, and EE are offering people on universal credit a free Wi-Fi package for 6 months with no commitment to continuing the contract beyond that point. So that's helpful information for people, but it would be great to see other providers offering. I'm not sure if we're aware of other providers offering a similar thing, but EER at the moment.
Oh, brilliant. That's great. Okay, what I'll do is I'll carry on, and then obviously we've got questions and stuff at the end. So if you think of things as you come through, please pop it in chat. So digital skills market, the future, and this is kind of part of our kind of DNA, I suppose, as practice labs is around practicing and gathering experience in this experiential learning. But what we see the digital skills market being is encouraging the development of skills. So it should be around creativity, curiosity, emotional and social intelligence. It's not about just developing a technical skill that sits over there. It connects with loads of other things. So being able to build a skills framework that marries digital and meta skills is going to be key for the future. It's about, yes, it's about knowing how to use Teams, it's knowing how to use email, but it's also about, being able to have that kind of resilience, being able to, learn from your mistakes and building all those other skills that sit around digital as well. So it shouldn't all, digital skills shouldn't be sat on its own. It should be around other things that you're building in. Our digital DNA, so 9 out of 10 employers are not having the digital skills in their workplace currently. So it's we need to start looking at digital as part of our DNA. So we have, language, math skills, they're classed as critical things that you need as as you're developing as an adult. But digital should now be part of that. It is part of everything that we do. So it's being able to build that critical path, really. And employers need to be looking at a digital skills diagnostics and assessment as part of the recruitment process. And this is something that we discussed yesterday in a number of the sessions, is around, we're wanting our clients to interact and apply for jobs online and use quite a lot of different digital systems. But actually understanding where that person is at their digital skills journey at the beginning helps us to be able to put things in place. So actually, if somebody's coming out, let's say entry level 3 in terms of some of their digital skills needs, then actually you can put something a little bit more personalized in place to make sure that they can access recruitment, be able to be part of that assessment. But you're also starting to see employers putting a bit of digital assessment as part of their recruitment process. So how are people engaging with Excel? How are people using things like Teams? And it's now part of that recruitment process. You will be interviewed via Teams, etc. So how do you prepare clients for that? And it's part of this digital skills DNA. And something that I'm really passionate about is having learning that's fluid, that it's bite-sized, it's on demand, it can change. Digital changes all the time, what we have is quite a lot of really static kind of traditional education, I suppose, products that we put learners through. You do your GCSEs, you potentially go to your A levels, you start work. If you want to upskill, is that a qualification? It feels very static, and it doesn't feel like part of your kind of life journey. It's something that's kind of like an add-on. So how do we make sure that people are up to date with technology, that they understand how to use new things that are coming out? And that's about fluid learning. As things happen, it's just part of your learning, it's part of your experience that you can practice. And that's something that we look at in terms of practice labs, is those practice environments. So it's this continuous ability and knowledge and assessment rather than kind of an exam type of setting. We have practice labs where people can go and they can practice a new skill, they can try things out, they can work out their best way of using a piece of technology or using a system without worrying that they're making a mistake. So it's this constant being able to practice and gather that experience that they can then bring into their normal lives. And then the other side of it is this career journey that needs to be accessible for the future. So understanding the current barriers that we went through earlier, it's high to reskill and leapfrog into a digital career. Digital careers are open there, but I feel, especially in our sector, it feels quite disengaged with our sector in terms of if somebody wants to reskill into a different job, if they wanted to reskill into digital, it feels like this really high thing to try to overcome to get into it. It seems too techy, it seems too kind of away from what they may have been doing previously. And that's because it hasn't necessarily go those traditional routes into it. So I think being able to build complementary skills and vocational skills and being able to show how they actually adapt in that digital career world, I think is really useful. And it's something we're looking at in terms of how can we build these journeys out to show how people can connect into digital careers and the type of careers that are out there for people as well. It seems very much of, okay, you need to be a developer or you need to work in software engineering. It doesn't necessarily have to be that there's loads of different careers there, but I think it's not necessarily clear, not only to individuals, but us as practitioners, of how do we engage in that sector. And so we need to look at a different way of how we look at learning. So it needs to be beyond kind of this kind of testing and qualifications. While it might seem a little bit more out of the box thinking to traditional assessments, both tutors and students, if you look at kind of performance-based assessment or performance-based ability, it has countless benefits when it's used well, because it can build your best in class. And it's a couple of elements of why kind of experiential learning works beyond this kind of one-off qualifications and true lifelong learning. It's about having personal learning, so not necessarily putting everyone through the same machine. We're wanting individuals to thrive and show their skill. And this is something that we covered earlier in terms of, it's about building confidence, it's about being creative, and everybody learns differently, everybody works with technology differently. So how through kind of using experience and building your confidence through practice, you're able to find your own way through and see what works for you, and what works for you might be different to somebody else. Being able to use safe environments is really important in learning. You want to be able to make mistakes, you want to be able to learn from those mistakes, you want to be able to constantly practice what you're doing, but without taking your company system offline, or changing the settings in your own computer and then being stuck with it because you haven't quite worked out how to get your way back. So being able to build a learning environment where people feel safe, where people feel that can practice and make mistakes is really important. When we're looking at experiential learning, the reason why it works really well is it's more engaging. So it's no secret that people don't like tests. So within a whole, if you're looking at more performance-based assessment, it's an assessment that can be fun, it can be an engaging experience, and it's a great way to encourage kind of your clients to kind of give their all in a task, because they know they're not necessarily going to have to break something or they're not going to pass a test. It also encourages ownership of their work. It's being able to get a chance to work on a project or performance from its concept all the way to the end. And it could be over a number of weeks. They could practice as they go, kind of bring different elements in. And it keeps them enthusiastic throughout the process, because you're able to kind of try and test and try again. And I think sometimes, especially when we look at kind of how we put people through qualifications, etc., at the moment, it becomes a bit of a memory test, especially when you're just having like a formal assessment at the end. And traditional exams and assessments become a test of person's ability to remember facts, figures, terms, etc. Whereas using experiential learning, it's about testing. It's not about testing memory. It's about being able to use a fairer method. So people are actually being able to try things out and actually use their own experience and use stuff that they're actually working on and put it in their own real life context, because it uses real world examples. It also develops problem solving skills. So if you look at performance-based learning or experiential learning, there's often no right or wrong answer. You're encouraged to think of different ways to tackle a problem and work out what works best for you. And it's a journey. You know, you practice, you learn, you implement something in real life, you grow as that individual, and then you're having to try a different method out, or there's a different piece of technology or a different work system, and you go back through that journey again. But again, it's all personal to you, because that client that we're working with all works in a different way in terms of how they learn and how they adapt. So I thought I'd put a little quote here. So Ricky Doyle, who is our crew captain at Practice Labs and one of our founders, explained experiential learning in terms of helping work readiness. So as we've said, why do we practice? We practice because we want to get better, because by practicing we can mess up and we can learn from those mistakes. Because ultimately we're not just valued by the number of qualifications we have, we are valued because of who we are, what we do, and how good we are at doing it. And if we're looking at some of the elements of work readiness now, you know, it's about ability. It's about being able to show an employer and give examples to an employer of how you've done a certain thing. So, you know, we all have been through that process. We have competency-based questions. Tell me a time when you've done X, Y, Z. Explain how you would do that. Well, you can explain when you've been able to practice and try different things out, rather than it just being, well, I have a qualification in X, Y, Z. It's about, well, I've practiced this. This is some of the things that I found. This is how I work with a certain piece of technology. This is what works best for me. And it gives more of a real life example. So experiential learning. Beth from Protocol discussed in her session yesterday about online recruitment process and how we need to prepare clients not just for digital applications, but also those basic digital skills for work. So like we said, we've got video calling, intranet, live file sharing, interactive whiteboards, and we're asking people to use technology as part of their working lives. So learning through practice gives your client a confidence when they're called upon to utilize these online tools in interviews in their eventual job. The old adage of practice makes perfect is right in this case, as we're using technology and practicing until that confidence is being built. And putting that into practice in the real world gives a level of safety and comfort to the user, to being able to learn from mistakes and find their own way using technology. So by giving clients the ability to practice, it gathers experience to be able to be creative. So experiential learning is one of the best ways to teach creative problem solving. In a real world context, we can learn that there's multiple solutions to challenges, and then you're encouraged to seek a unique solution to a hands-on task. It gives the opportunity to reflect, so incorporating concrete experiences with abstract concepts and then reflecting on the outcome. So clients engage more regions of their brain and make stronger connections with the material. They're encouraged to analyze how their actions are affected by an issue and how the outcome might be varied for different situations. It enables them better to understand the concept learned and can be applied to others and varied circumstances. And like we said, make mistakes. By engaging in hands-on tasks, you can find some approaches work better than others. You can discard methods that don't work, but in the act of trying something and abandoning it, ordinarily considered a mistake, it becomes a valuable part of learning. You learn not to fear mistakes, but actually value them because it's part of that learning process. And in terms of hands-on practice for digital, As we said, it gets acquainted with real world hardware and software. It can prepare for testing and certification if that's what somebody wants to undertake, builds confidence, but it also develops some of those meta skills that we talked about, is reasoning, evaluation, problem solving skills, critical analysis. It develops those practical skills that employers are looking for, and it demonstrates their work readiness. And what I thought I'd do is just quickly introduce you to essential digital skills, because it's something that came across yesterday in terms of how can we build this basic digital skills within our clients. So EDS, or Essential Digital Skills, is a government initiative. So as from September 2020, all adults aged 19 plus with no or low digital skills are now entitled to take essential digital skills qualifications free of charge, in line with existing entitlements for English and maths. It's basically recognised as digital skills as a passport to grow. Obviously, as everything that we've discussed today, because of COVID-19, you know, this has actually been accelerated. So it's about building employment security and digital confidence. There's 2 levels to it. So there's entry level 3 and level 1, and it's AB digital funded. The structure of it is there's 4 main elements, and it's for skills for work and life. It is to improve the odds of success for unemployed, underemployed, NEET or employed learners as well. And it builds on communication, handling information and content, transacting and problem solving. In terms of how you can access it, and I've put this in our exhibitor profile as well. So if you come to our online stand, there's some more information about this. Obviously, you can contact me directly. But in terms of accessing this for your clients, if you've got your own AB contract, you can just add EDSQ to your delivery alongside your other AB programs. And we've put a couple of examples of how you can do that. It's around about £300 per learner through that contract. And there's a number of different awarding organisations doing this, so BCS, Pearson, City and Guild, NCFE and Gateway. So if you do have a contract, it's worth speaking to your contracts manager in terms of accessing that funding. If you don't have an AB contract, obviously you could work with your supply chain in terms of offering this out, so colleges or preferred training providers to your customers. Another option is to have this as an unregulated provision, so part of Restart, etc. And we've developed a CPD course that will support somebody through this process. It's around about £20, so it's video content, initial assessment, but most importantly, it has practice labs in it, so a learner can practice the skills that they're learning throughout the course, rather than just doing an online course without actually being able to practice on any systems. So just to finish off from my side, is how can you get involved? So we've got 2 different things that we want to kind of put to you. One, essential digital skills. It's knowing that it's out there, it's engaging with that product, and obviously speak to us about how you can kind of build that into your provision. And the other side of it is we're starting to speak to people like yourselves in terms of virtual work experience. So looking at this as part of AEP contracts and restart projects, and we're gathering views on what that needs to look like. What are the compliance issues? What are the barriers that you think that you will face for virtual work experience? So we're looking to engage with the sector. So if you're interested in getting involved in that project, if you can drop me a line and I'll get back to you as soon as we can on a focus group around that. So thank you very much for your time today, and I'm available for any questions.
Excellent. Thank you for that, Sean. We're just waiting for some questions to come in on the chat. I'm waiting to see what comes in.
While people are digesting that amazing presentation, and Sean, I just want to remind people of what's coming up while they get the questions in. So we've got Cognisoft coming up very, very shortly, and then the digital digital college, sorry, a little bit later on, and then our speed networking sessions. So it would be really good to get all of you involved in those sessions also. But there must be some questions for Sian.
Yeah, there will be.
I've got a Sarah Richardson who's put her hand up. Are you happy to speak with Sarah, Sian? Okay.
Can I ask, before Sarah says her question, would you just stop screen sharing, Sian, so we can see you? Thanks, love.
Apologies, Sian, I don't actually have a question. My chat was disabled. I'm just using my phone for the chat feature. So the chat's disabled for me. I don't know if that is the same for the other participants, but I would just like to say thank you very much. It was an excellent presentation that you did. Really, really useful. Struck a lot of chords with myself, being based in Upper Eden. A lot of challenges for some of my participants in terms of employability and upskilling with digital skills. So thank you very much for doing that. It was excellent.
Oh, thank you very much. And like I said, I've put a couple of, especially around the essential digital skills in the in our exhibitor location. But if you ever want some advice, or you want to talk about how we can integrate digital skills with your clients, I'm always happy to kind of share some ideas and advice, etc. So always get in touch.
Just on the point of the chat being disabled, we purposefully disabled the chat in our Zoom elements, so you use the Hoover app. And the reason for that is, don't get me wrong, Sarah, a number of people have done this. The reason for that is if you download the Hoover app and use the chat, there's so many other functions there, so many other things going on, lots and lots of opportunity to engage with the competitions and everything. And what that means is that you get a much richer experience throughout the conference. And I think it's really important to remind people across the piece that that's how we are hosting the conference today. It's quite interesting because we'll become really, really knowledgeable at Zoom links, and they all look the same and everything, but the Zoom link is generated through the app, and ultimately, whilst you can join the session directly from Zoom, the experience, even though Sian's presentation was amazing, the experience is even more and further enhanced if you're using the app. So we thoroughly encourage you to do that. You can't
Scott,
engage.
I've just had a comment come in from Melon. It's an interesting one. She's saying we're not allowed to download the app as it's blocked by my organisation. So you are able to, for those who are watching, you should be able to use a web browser app. If you can look at doing that, that might help as well. But if you do have any problems with that, if you contact me directly at the IEP, we'll see what we can do to get you that access. Back over.
We're building our digital skills ourselves by this.
We're all learning every single day, aren't we, Sian? It's amazing. Any more questions for Sian?
Not at the moment.
Okay. Okay. Well, we'll give it a couple more seconds for people to give us anything else that they need.
We've had a question come in the Q&A. I'm really sorry, there's squeaking in the background behind me, so apologies for that. Excellent session, Sian. Mel says, do you think there is a way for us to do more joined up working going forward?
Absolutely, and I think this is where potentially some of the kind of accessibility parts are not breaking down, but it's not joined up. So if you think about exactly what was said earlier, you know, that being able to access free Wi-Fi and, you know, being able to access a laptop for a certain period of time, on top of things like you've got government initiatives, you've got different pockets of provision going on, you've got people like ourselves that are kind of those kind of digital practitioners. All of that's kind of going on, but it does feel like it is quite separate. And I think, you know, as practitioners, we want to be able to put the best possible solution forward to our clients that's right for them. But it's being able to have that information and being able to bring that together. So that's something that we're really passionate about, is how can we join the dots? So hence why I said, if you are looking at how you build kind of digital provision into what you're doing, then please contact me. My background is kind of employability and skills, so I can kind of join some of those dots together in terms of how this provision can be accessed quite a lot of the time. So I'm more than happy to kind of give some advice on that.
Brilliant, thank you, Sian.
I'm busy messaging on the app, doing stuff. It's fantastic, the opportunity to engage with people. Thanks, Mel, for your comments, really, really useful. We've got lots of community boards going on in the app as well. We've got lots of, I'm sure everyone's really happy with where they're employed and what they're doing, but there's job opportunities there as well. And if you visit the exhibitor booths, there's competitions, there's opportunities to engage, videos to watch and stuff. This is all about learning this whole week, even though every single day is themed differently. It's all about learning and bringing this digital approach and response to the widest possible audience. So the more you engage with that, the better. Absolutely. And I wonder if I don't want to put Helen on the spot, but if she can just kind of throw out there some of the community engagement stuff that's going on throughout the community at the moment.
Yes, I can. So we've got topics, we've got people who are getting involved in Members for Members, which is the IEP mentoring program. So we've got people who are volunteering to do some mentoring, but we're also looking for more people who'd like to be mentored. So there's activity going on there. We've also got some discussions going around digital inclusion. If you haven't already gone to the Break the Ice section, that's wonderful there. We've got lots of people meeting each other under Break the Ice. So sort of reaching out. We're looking at how we can build digital interaction in our topic groups. We are sharing information on other conferences that are coming up, and we have article sharing as well. There's a really interesting one I've seen here around, is my digital persona still me? I think I might have a look at that one later. And as you've mentioned, there is job openings as a thread as well. But there's lots more. I could read and read and read them. So I'd recommend everyone visits them.
Okay, any more for any more? Because we're running out of time now. We've got to be on time for everything else going on the day. Sian, in lieu of any more questions for you or anything, can I say thank you very much? A wonderful presentation as ever. I really love a lot of the things that Practice Labs are doing. The whole kind of experience element of that is really great, and bringing something quite unique and interesting. Well, no, very unique and interesting to the marketplace. We're very pleased to have you here, and we're also very, very grateful for your continued engagement with the sector and all the things that you do, both as a fellow of the IEP and also as working at Practice Labs. Thank you very much for that. Without further ado, in about 15 to 20 minutes, we'll be up with Cognisoft at 11:30, and then we've got Digital College, the Digital College after that, and then we've got our speed networking sessions. So suffice to say for me now, thank you very much again, Sian, and thank you to everyone that's been here this morning, and we'll see you in about 15, 20 minutes.
Thank you.